Hey guys, it's Fizz here, and I know it's been a while. I remember I told you guys I wasn't gonna have this much of a break in between videos, and I'm sorry again. I've just been overwhelmed with homework and shit, and I had this story just waiting to be edited for like probably a good 3 weeks. So I'm sorry about that. This is gonna be a Genshin story, probably pretty long because I'm gonna have a lot of ships. And just for those who are probably gonna be very confused as to why Skada, Zhongling, and Xingqiu are siblings in this story, I just headcanoned them as siblings, so I don't know, they look very similar to me. In the beginning here, if you see their ages on top, it's just helping you see what age they are at the current time in the story, because we are going to be in the past for the beginning for this chapter, and they might have like flashbacks later or something. Maybe I'm not sure. But for now, in this part of the story, they're going to be the first ages, and then by the next part, they're going to be the second set of ages. They're going to age up to what they're probably going to be for the rest of the series. But yeah, anyway, yeah, I'll let you get to this video. I hope you have a good day. Bye.
Scaramouche, Zhongling and XingQu lived with their parents in a somewhat poorer part of the city. Their family wasn't the most well off, but they slid by with some relative ease. Because of their circumstances, the three didn't have many friends. In fact, bullying by other children was a regular occurrence for the three. It affected Scaramouche the worst though. He preferred being alone, and most of the time he was the butt of every joke because of his menacing face and reservedness. The two younger children, though they faced much of the same thing, they had personalities that many people could become attached to. Most people were overall nice to them, and they were even able to make friends, unlike their brother. It didn't help that Scaramouche found most his classmates annoying and regularly thought of ways to either get as far as he could away from all of them, or find a way to shut them up. One of the closest friend to the younger siblings was this boy called XingYun. They met him first in the summer when they had moved into a new apartment. Him and his mother came to visit them, and the three younger children clicked instantly, while Scaramouche was unwelcoming of the new company even if they faced many of the same struggles as they had. Scaramouche and his two siblings played outdoors on the street with their neighbor as the neighbor's mother watched them carefully from her porch. His parents had gone out to get him and his siblings some new clothes as they had worn out their sneakers and dirtied all their shirts from playing outside so often, but none of them really wanted to go shopping, so they were allowed to stay and play with their neighbor XingYun. While XingQu, XingYun and Zhongling kicked around a ball having the time of their lives, Scaramouche played with some chalk alone on the sidewalk. He preferred to stay alone with his own thoughts and hated the loud screams of his siblings screeching at the top of their lungs as it made his ears ring. This was usual occurrence for Scaramouche. He was often invited to join them, but rudely turned them down, not wanting to play with the younger child. "Children, be careful and don't get into any trouble. I'm just going to answer this phone call inside. I'll be right back." "Okay, Ma." His mom waved, looking a little on edge as she read the number on the phone, but quickly she went inside and took the call as the children went back to playing happily. "Union. Over here. Hey, it's my turn. Pass it to me." XingYun snickered and passed it over to XingQu again as Zhongling frowned, watching the two best friends ignore her like she wasn't welcome. "Guys, this is no fun. Go play something else then. We want to play this." "Me too. But you guys aren't giving me the ball. We're the older ones here, we're allowed to do whatever we want." "That's not fair. I'm telling Mommy. Papa and Mama aren't here, stupid. I'm in charge now. You guys are meanies. I hate you." Tears started to form in her eyes as she punched her brother in the arm and chased him around trying to get the ball for herself. Scaramouche, overhearing the bickering, looked over at the two boys teasing his little sister and narrowed his eyebrows menacingly. "Chew, stop being mean to Xian. Let her have a turn or I'm telling Mom." Hearing Scaramouche's angry and annoyed tone, the three of them went silent and froze before quietly going back to playing among the three of them. That though didn't last long, and the three of them started to flail around again and speak loudly like a bunch of feral cats. Scaramouche sighed before going back to coloring the sidewalk with a multitude of colors, but once again getting interrupted by XingYun's mother calling them all over frantically. "Children, come here for a moment." Her voice was shaky and she clutched the phone in her hands like she was about to break it. Scaramouche had an uneasy feeling in his stomach. "What is it, Ma? Sit down first." Her breathing was heavy like she was trying to catch her breath, and her face appeared fearful for what was to come. The four of them sat on the porch confused as the mother caught her breath and nervously walked around trying to figure something out. "Ma, what's wrong? I'm sorry." "Huh, why? There's no way around this, but I can't bear to say it." Tears welled up in her eyes as she stared down at the three siblings looking up at her with concern and fear from her unexplained reactions. "I'm so sorry. Scaramouche, XingQu, Zhongling." You're going to stay over the night. Why is that a bad thing? I get to spend more time with Chu. We can play video games all night. XingYun nodded in agreement and jumped in his seat knowing he was able to spend more time with XingYun. What else? Miss, why are you crying? She took a deep breath as she composed herself. Your parents were in an accident. Scaramouche's stomach dropped as he heard that. The ruckus from XingYun and XingYun also stopped as they heard those words coming out of her mouth. I hope Mama and Papa are okay. Are they just going to be late? That's okay, we can play more until they come back. Even XingYun and XingYun started to understand as their faces fell and XingYun stared off into space waiting for her to say the inevitable. Shangling. Listening to the mother's shaky voice cemented the idea Scaramouche has in his head. Are they dead? The other two thought the same thing, but couldn't say it. They didn't want it to be true, and hearing Scaramouche say it made XingYun's stomach sink. What? That's not true, Scara. Mama and Papa are just going to be late. They said they'd be back soon. They just have to go fix the car. Tears fell from XingYun's faces as he stared up at the woman who couldn't bear to finish her sentence as the children's faces fell before her eyes. The only one who hadn't seemed to realize was Shangling, getting visibly upset by Scaramouche's question. She was the youngest and brightest of the bunch. She always had a smile on her face, but she knew the news would wipe it off in an instant. When she didn't answer them, she knew the boys had understood, but Shangling still hadn't, as she become confused by her brother's reactions. It's not true, right? Papa promised to teach me how to cook. Mama told me they would come back and we'd make dinner together. They have to keep their promise. Hearing his sister's words felt like a punch in the gut. What would happen now with no one to take care of them? XingYun, why are you crying? You can't believe this. Maybe it's a joke. Mama and Papa are going to surprise us. Beside XingYun, XingYun, unsure of what to do, had grabbed XingYun by the arm and held it tight, trying his best to comfort him, hoping this all was just a bad dream. Don't cry. Scara, tell him, he's being a baby. Scaramouche couldn't say anything. He couldn't even fake a tear. He just stared back blankly as his sister and glanced over at his brother in distress. Shangling, they're not coming back. You too. Of course they are. You're just messing with me. You guys always do this. This isn't funny. XingYun, you're really bad at acting. Give it up. I know you guys are trying to trick me again. XingYun couldn't even hear her. The only thing that filled his ears were the sobs of his best friend. Shangling. Having enough of this, XingYun's mother interjects Shangling and decides it was best to come clean to her. The others already knew what was coming. It's not true, right, miss? I'm sorry, Shangling, they're not coming back. Shangling went quiet for a bit, but didn't want to believe it. I get it, we're going to see them. Oh, maybe Papa is going to bring us to our favorite restaurant for dinner. Let's go now, I'm starving. Shangling still didn't want to believe it. Sweetie, you're eating here tonight. Let's get inside, I'll make you something to eat. The mother rushed inside to give the children some space. She didn't want to break down in front of them. Hearing those words, Shangling sat idly before picking her lifeless body up and stared off into space blankly, trying to still rationalize this all in her head as she made her way inside. Scaramouche followed behind her, not sure how to comfort her and still put off by his own reaction. He wasn't sure how he felt. It all just didn't feel real. As they walked inside, Scaramouche glanced over at his brother, who cried into XingYun's shoulder as the friend tried his best to comfort him. He knew this all was going to get much worse. Eventually, XingYun cried so much he exhausted himself and fell asleep on XingYun's shoulder. XingYun carried the smaller boy inside as it started to rain and let him rest on the sofa as he sat on the floor beside him. Eventually, Shangling, who sat on the chair near them, awoke from her trance and looked over at XingYun, who stared back at her, unsure of what to say. Do you want to play Mario Kart? Sure. XingYun agreed, wanting to do anything to get the siblings' mind off of the heavy topic that weighed on them all. It put a smile on Shangling's face, but it still hadn't looked like the fact that her parents are gone had sunk in. She was still in denial. Scaramouche watched them play and he was relieved that his little sister had still not cracked yet. On the other hand, his brother looked like it had taken a toll on him. His eyes were red and he could see the tears that had stained XingYun's jacket. After staring at him for a while, he hadn't noticed that XingYun had woken up from his little nap and was staring back at him with a deadpan look, like he was drained of all his energy. XingYun looked away after a while, feeling so pitiful for being the only one that had cried his eyes out, while Scaramouche kept his composure to help their sister and XingYun had to take care of him. Yun. XingYun jumped as XingYun whispered into his ear and scared him. Yeah, Chu. Are you alright? Yeah, I just have a little headache. You should sleep more then. We'll wake you up when dinner is ready. XingYun ignored XingYun and got off the sofa to sit with him on the floor, where he watched the two play video games peacefully, laying his head on his friend's shoulder. XingYun then laid his head gently onto XingYun's as he continued to stare at the TV, trying to comfort both siblings. Soon enough they had dinner, which was for the most part quiet and quick before they were rushed off to bed, not a single one having enough energy after today's happenings. XingYun's mother set up an inflatable mattress, blankets and pillows in the living room where she let the four of them sleep together while they watched TV and played video games until they would knock out. Here Chu, it's your turn. Xiangling attempted to pass the controller to Xingqiu but he denied it. No thanks, I don't want to play. You sure? Are you feeling alright? Yeah, I'm just not in the mood to play Mario Kart. You guys can continue to play, I'm good just watching. What about you Skara? Do you want a turn? Sure, I'll have a go. Scaramouche laid on the couch with his controller in his hands as him and XingYun faced off, while Xingqiu laid on the inflatable bed beside XingYun, who was sat up on it, and he watched the two. Beside him was Xiangling who sat on a smaller couch and stared blankly at the TV. Xingqiu stole a few glances at her trying to make sure she was still alright, but he couldn't make out what she was thinking about by her expressionless face. Xingqiu. Yeah. Xingqiu stared at her and she stared back in silence for a while before she opened her mouth again to say something though she wasn't able to get anything out as her breathing became heavier and she began to choke up. Xiangling. Are you okay? She took a deep breath trying to regain her composure. Are they really gone? The atmosphere in the room turned somber as the three others recalled of the very thing that brought them here, and none of them knew how to answer her. Yeah, they're really gone. Her expression fell as her breathing became heavier and more frequent until it was hard for her to breathe anymore, let alone utter another word. Xingqiu was the first to notice as he climbed out of bed and sat beside his sister. It seemed that it had finally hit her. He kept his composure and hugged her tightly as the other two dropped their controllers and looked over to see the little girl crying into her brother's shoulder. XingYun's body moved on its own as he also went over to comfort her as she continued to soak her brother's shirt in tears. On the other hand, Scaramouche sat frozen in place as he watched the younger ones try to comfort his little sister without any success. Xiangling, it's going to be okay. No it won't. Xingqiu, they're gone. We're never going to see them again. Papa promised he would teach me how to cook. Xiangling's cries became more violent as the two were unsure how they were supposed to comfort her. Scaramouche watched them with a deadpan look. He knew from today on things would never be the same. He knew their lives would change, and probably not for the better, but he swore that he would not allow any of his siblings to feel so destroyed ever again. He was determined to give them the perfect life free from sadness. That night Xingqiu and XingYun shared the inflatable mattress with Xiangling as they comforted her until she cried herself to sleep and they followed suit, knocking out once her cries had went silent. On the other hand, Scaramouche couldn't bring himself to fall asleep. He watched the three of them sleep peacefully, knowing that once today was over things were not going to be the same. Now that his parents were gone, it felt like his job as the older sibling to take care of his younger siblings. He's who they would rely on from now on. But he was just as young and stupid as the rest of them. He didn't know the first thing about anything, but he was determined to make their lives better. He would not let this be their family's breaking point. The next few weeks were slow and quiet. Xiangling rarely spoke anymore and most of Xingqiu's and XingYun's time was spent trying to cheer her up despite Xingqiu wanting to just hide away in a corner away from everyone. He just couldn't let his sister be alone. Most of their stay at XingYun's Scaramouche spent trying to figure out what he was supposed to do. He definitely wasn't one to comfort people, so all he could do was try to please Xiangling and Xingqiu as best as he could, but he could never relate to them on an emotional level. While his siblings grieved, it didn't seem that his parents' death really affected him like it did everyone else. Even XingYun seemed more saddened by their death than he was. His mind was mostly blank. He was the first one to realize they were dead, but since then he hasn't felt much sadness. All that was on his mind were his siblings, and his worries became worse until one day strangers showed up at XingYun's door. Scaramouche, can you go get the others? Okay. Scaramouche dropped his book and went over to XingYun's room where the three others sat on the floor playing video games in silence. Xingqiu and XingYun sat on the floor staring at the TV in a daze as they mashed their controllers mindlessly, while Xiangling laid on the floor and rested her head in XingYun's lap as she peacefully slept. Scaramouche glared at the scene in front of him and cleared his throat to get the others' attention. Shish, she's sleeping. We have to get up. She wanted me to come get you guys. Why? I don't know, she just asked me, but there are people at the door. Okay, give us 5 minutes. Scaramouche bit his lip and sighed as he started to get frustrated. No, now. Xingqiu and XingYun froze, but quickly woke up Xiangling and got up, trying not to get him even more angry. As they walked over, Scaramouche got between his sister and XingYun as he glared at the younger boy. Thank you for getting them, Scaramouche. The four of them made their way to the entranceway and stood before XingYun's mother and a man who was dressed in a suit staring down at them. Mama, what's is it? XingYun's mother stared down at them as she took a deep breath, trying to compose herself, but still the look on her face sent chills down the children's spine. Xingqiu, Xiangling, Scaramouche. I'm so sorry. I know you've been here for weeks now, but I don't have enough of anything to keep you guys here. I don't have enough money for 3 more mouths. I wish I could keep you guys, but I can't. So this man is going to take you somewhere where they can provide you with a better home. But auntie, I'm sorry Xingqiu, I wish I could keep you all here together, but I just can't. I promise you'll be better off over there. I'll make sure me and XingYun come to visit you as often as we can. So you guys never feel alone. Anyways, you have your siblings, so you won't be alone. There are also other kids there to make friends with, so just think of it as a big sleepover to make friends. No, I don't need anything. XingYun grabbed onto XingYun's and shook as he held it tightly, not wanting to let go. He was afraid that after this they would never see each other again. I can always give XingYun my clothes, and I'll give half of my food to him. I'll make the food too so mama doesn't have to worry. The children pleaded with her, but she just couldn't support 3 more children on her limited income. I'll get a job. Scaramouche, you couldn't even if you wanted to. You're too young, and I would never want to put that burden on you. I promise it's not as bad as it seems. You guys will be much happier there. You'll find a family that can give you anything you want. No, I want to go with XingYun then. XingYun, you can't go, but I promise we'll go see them all the time. That's not fair. XingYun held his friend closer to him and dragged him away from the man who awkwardly stood by. I won't let you take him. XingYun, calm down. Honey, nothing bad is going to happen. They're just going to go to a better home, to a family that can take care of them. What if they're mean and I can't go see Chu? I'll take care of XingYun. XingYun, calm down. Everything will be fine. I don't want another family. Scaramouche, don't worry. Don't listen to XingYun. The new family you get will treat you all very kindly. I don't care. I don't need another family. Come on, Scaramouche. I know it's hard to go somewhere new, but you siblings need you to be strong. You'll be in much better hands. I don't need anyone to take care of me. It's not that easy, Scara. You're only 12, you can't do anything about it. And what about your siblings? Are you just going to leave them behind? No, they're coming with me. I'll take care of them. XingYun's mother flashed him an awkward smile as she sighed, knowing that nothing was going to get through Scaramouche's thick skull. I know you mean well, Scara, but it's more complicated than you expect. If you care about them, it's probably best you all go with this man for now. Maybe one day you can take care of them, but right now that's really out of your hands. And I don't want to have to see any of you on the streets. Scaramouche looked over to the man who awkwardly just stood by the door, then looked over at his siblings. XingYun held onto XingYun, terrified, while his little sister started to cry again. It felt like her world was crumbling in front of her. Scaramouche looked back at the 2 adults and rolled his eyes. The only person that could help him and his siblings was himself, but there was no way her could do anything now as a child. Scaramouche walked over to XingYun and held her tight as she cried into his arm for what seemed like an hour, as XingYun's mom couldn't bear to watch the little ones cry. She wished she could do more for them. XingYun, we should go. XingYun didn't say anything and just continued to cry as she got dragged around by Scaramouche. What are you saying? I'm not leaving XingYun. Let him go. We're leaving now. No, you're not. No one can take XingYun away from me. He's staying here and I'm going to take care of him. You're too young to take care of XingYun. You know nothing. Shut up. XingYun. We're going. I'm going to take care of my siblings. I don't need your help. Scara. I don't want to leave XingYun. I'm not leaving. He's the only one that actually cares about me. He makes me feel happy. We have no choice. Stop crying. You're being dramatic. Scara, maybe you should be a little nicer to your siblings. Scaramouche didn't answer her and just continued to get his brother off of his friend as his sister held onto his other arm firmly. We don't need them, XingYun. You have us. Shut up. I'm not leaving Yun. Just because you're older than me doesn't mean I'm going to listen to you. You never acted like my brother before, so why are you trying to do it now? XingYun. You never liked us, so stop trying to act like you do now. Scaramouche was taken aback by XingYun's comment. It only made the pit in his stomach grow larger. XingYun, please. XingYun shouted through her tears and heavy breathing. She couldn't take all her brothers arguing. It was making her head spin. Can you guys just be quiet? Sorry. The whole room went silent and the buzzing of a fly could be heard among the silence. Eventually Scaramouche walked towards the man, still holding onto his sister as they finally gave in, while XingYun took another little bit to whisper to XingYun before joining them as well, with his head hanging down, trying not to make eye contact with anyone other than XingYun. The 3 left in silence with the man as XingYun cried on the front porch as he watched his friends drive away like he would never see them again. The ride was silent. XingYun stopped crying and the younger ones just stared at their feet with an emotionless stare while Scaramouche observed the surroundings outside the car on their way to this grande building. Once they slowly entered the gates of this building, Scaramouche observed small children playing outside and older women watching over them. Scaramouche had an uneasy feeling, but he was determined to get out of here as soon as he could. Where are we? This is where they're going to keep us. This is our new home. It doesn't look like home. I want to go back. XingYun's voice was quiet and monotone as all he could think about was seeing XingYun again. Don't worry, Chu, you'll see XingYun again. He'll come visit you. Yeah, XingYun, he'll come back to us. Don't worry, we won't stay here for long. We'll go back home soon.
Just one more thing before I end the video. the characters' ages, they're not gonna be canon to the game. Honestly, most of the characters' ages aren't canon, but we do have like, I guess, an idea of how old they are, like around. These ages aren't canon. Like Scaramouche is definitely not 18. He's definitely over 20 in the game, but I just changed their ages to fit the story, honestly. You're gonna see like Child's older than him, even though in the game their child is supposed to be younger than him. Anyway, it's just gonna be like that. Yeah, you're gonna see like Xiangling be like 30 and and like Venti's gonna be like 18. Like it doesn't match up at all, but it's fine. And hopefully I'll be posting more often. I'm already starting to write another part for the story, and hopefully I'm going to keep working on fucking the Haikyuu stories I have, because I do want to write them, especially the Mia twins one. So yeah, I hope you enjoy. If you have any ideas to, I don't know, further the story or whatever, like you just throw it at me, honestly, I'll listen. I already have basically what's planned out, but if you guys have interesting ideas, go for it. Yeah, anyway, thank you, bye. I hope you have a good day.